What is up, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Once again, we are going to dive directly into some Victory Road World Cup content, this time in the round of 8 against Jean-Marc Hébert of Canada. I'm really sorry again if I've butchered your name pronunciation, but Jean-Marc is a fantastic player who recently got top 4 in the Vancouver Regionals, so it is going to be a tough match. Going into this, I knew that they favored a very standard Crystal Rain composition, but they'd played a ton of different teams throughout World Cup. So I've only played Kyogre and Calyrex teams so far. So I thought that Lunadon was also a big potential threat. I ended up deciding on the same Charizard Swordfish team inspired by Abai and Taran from a couple of videos ago as a middle ground that could handle either potential matchup. And as we can see, or could see rather, sorry, I've been talking throughout what was team preview for me, they're playing a variant of Crystal Rain with double grass types rather than a Zapdos or Thundurus. So hopefully my preparation into this was worth it. I'm leading Kyogre Amoonguss to help get some big spouts off in the early game, and then putting Thundurus and Zacian in the back to clean up what's left, get Airstream plus speed control. If Kyogre lives and Amoonguss doesn't, which is very possible thanks to Rage Powder redirection, we can also potentially get some Airstream boosts onto Kyogre. So we can see my opponent's leading Zacian Grimmsnarl in game 1. So this is a really solid lead for me. I could risk things and go for a Spore into either Mon, frankly, would be very helpful. But the safe play here is to Water Spout and Rage Powder. And in a game 1, generally the safe play is the way you want to go about it. So yeah, we're going to not be greedy, not go for the Origin Pulse Spore play, and instead try to avoid a potential Thunder Wave because or a miss, because either of those could potentially ruin the game for us this early on. You know, just want to pursue the good lead that we've been given, go for a Rage Powder plus Water Spout. Even with Light Screen, even if it's a like bulkization, this should do a considerable amount of damage just because Kyogre is that strong, and we do have that Mystic Water. We are also calced on the Amoonguss to take a Behemoth Blade from even a very well-invested Adamantization, so we can see here, yeah, we barely live that one, and I'm pretty sure that is the calc. We, even from, like, I think it's 164 Adamant, we only have a 12% chance to die from it, so most stations are not that strong, and we take it as predicted, and yeah, it's great. So look at that damage on Water Spout. That's actually absolutely fantastic. So from here, I'm looking at what my opponent has in the back. I could go for another safe Spout and Powder play, but what I figure is that they're most likely going to use their Grimmsnarl's final turn to get Reflect up. And so what I do is I go for a bit of a greedy play here, eventually, and I only know what I ultimately do. I don't remember exactly how I waffled here. But what I do is I get greedy and I swap my Thundurus into the Amoonguss slot, and the idea here is that I'm ready for the free switch in that I would potentially be granting them for their Kyogre. This way I can either Airstream Spout or Lightning Spout or whatever I feel like at the time. Yeah, and if they don't bring in Kyogre, I can even Protect and Airstream to make my Kyogre faster than their Zacian if it's still alive, which it is because they go for Protect, and unfortunately they go for T-Wave instead of Reflect. This was a play I just flat out didn't expect them to go for, so, you know, well done. Honestly, like, I wouldn't have done this in their position because, like, Rage Powder seems like the obvious play, right? So T-Waving an Amoonguss seems pretty pointless. Like, the best you're going to get is a full para, but the speed control means nothing. But they read me, so well done. Now I'm in a pretty rough position. You remember that Kyogre free switch I had mentioned a second ago. Even though I've brought in Thundy for it, this is now still a very big problem because my Kyogre is going to be slower than theirs, despite being quite speedy invested, thanks to that paralysis. And Thundurus can't Oko a really bulky Kyogre, even with Life Orb, if it Dynamaxes. So this turn I panic a bit and take a lot of time. Not particularly proud of this play. Basically, what I decided is that I need to preserve Thundurus and get it onto the field at the same time as my Zacian. If I can get Thundy and Zacian at the same time, get Airstream boosts up, or just Lightning plus Beyblade into the Kyogre would take it out. These are all potential options here. So I do swap out Thundy into Amoonguss, which is the right play, but what I don't do well is clicking Water Spout on Kyogre. And my Kyogre is specifically calced to take a play rough from even an Adamantization, even particularly invested Adamantzations. So I really should have seen coming that Origin Pulse was the play here. Yeah, so they predictably do Dynamax that Kyogre. because it would pick up the Oko on a Dynamax Thundurus unless it had Assault Vest. So that them putting a Geyser into the Thundurus slot is definitely the play. And they do go for a Play Rough into my Kyogre. Unfortunately, it does connect, but that calc that we worked out before, it happens. So it's really unfortunate that I'm going to be clicking Origin Pulse on this turn. Geyser goes into Amoonguss, takes it out. That's fair enough. We managed to keep Thundy alive and stall a turn of their max, so that's not bad at all. But yeah, here's the world's saddest Water Spout. And if that was an Origin Pulse, that would have been a dead Zacian. So yeah, really rough. This is just me timing out and panicking. It was a bad play. So at this point, I am at an obvious, like, not in a good position here, right? So I need to make a play. What I figure I can do here is get Thundy onto the field next to my Zacian still, like I was talking about earlier. It'll still be rough even with those two, but that is my best out as far as I can tell. And because my Zacian is jolly, I assume I would outspeed them. I wouldn't even necessarily need an Airstream. So I go for the Max Guard with Thundy, expect my Kyogre to go down, and then I can potentially get Zacian onto the field. Yeah, this seems like the best way to recover from where I was. Once you're down, especially in a format like this, you have to take a risk and see if you can get a lot of value from a single play. So we go for the Max Guard here. And my opponent must have been scared of a potential Assault Vest because they go for that B-Blade into Thundurus and the Assault and the Geyser. So we get a Max Guard into a double in, and then we break through Paralysis and Accuracy and get the Opals off. So the last turn was really rough for us, but turn 4 was fantastic. We are back in the game now thanks to that one good play. And actually we're better than just back in it because my opponent's final Pokemon is Incineroar, which means they are going to involuntarily give us a Defiant. I'm sure they were holding it in the back so that they wouldn't have to, but and that's probably also part of why they doubled the Thundurus. They want that off the field so they don't give that Defiant boost. But now, with +1 and Life Orb, my Thundurus does threaten the Oko onto their Kyogre, and Incin has nothing it can do to me, short of a potential Will-O-Wisp tech. I think that's the only thing that that really could mess me up. We're going to go for Lightning, so Burning Jealousy wouldn't do anything. So that's why we attack here. Even though we are within range of a Fake Out just killing Kyogre, on the off chance they do have something crazy like Will-O-Wisp, we might as well click Origin Pulse here and then go for the Max Lightning on the Kyogre. With the Defiant boost, with the Life Orb, we will pick up this Oko. They didn't put up Reflect at the beginning of the game because they went for that Thunder Wave. So we're in a great spot here. They do just go for the safe play and go for the Fake Out. But yeah, now Max Lightning's going to connect with the Kyogre, and both Thundurus plus the Zacian we have in the back will absolutely beat the one single Incineroar, especially when Thundurus is at +1. So yeah, we pick up that Oko. That is absolutely fantastic. Had we missed that, the game would have been over in the other direction. But yeah, no, we're doing fantastically here. Bring out the Zacian, go ahead and seal up this game. So from here, we click our moves. You know, it doesn't really matter. I click B-Blade just to not reveal what my other moves are. But we're thinking about game 2 already at this point, right? So Kyogre Amoonguss countered their Zacian Grimmsnarl lead extremely well, even despite the mistakes I made, even despite the risk they took with that Thunder Wave paying off. They still lost pretty much on the lead, right? So what I was thinking is that, you know, had I O-pulsed on turn 3, it would have been like not even close. So I'm thinking that my opponent would try to change things up. That was my intuition at the time, at least. And what would really mess up my my Kyogre Amoonguss lead is an Amoonguss lead of their own. So I started to try to think of what I would do to deal with that. So we can go ahead and see team preview here for match number 2, game number 2 rather. I don't know why I'm sitting here. Let's go ahead and skip. So because that potential Amoonguss lead is so scary, I think I end up deciding that I need a really offensive lead that can handle that. I don't have Taunt on Whimsicott, so that's not an option, and Amoonguss obviously can't do anything with Rage Powder against another Grass type. And I really don't want to bring Charizard into a Life Orb Kyogre, which they revealed. So what I'd go with is the Thunderization play. Airstream Behemoth Blade would absolutely take it out. Even Lightning Behemoth Blade would take it out. Would be really good, because if they just protect, then we still get Lightning on the field, and Beyblade can take it out the following turn or something along those lines, right? So we go Zacian Thundurus as the lead, and then Kyogre Among Us in the back. The same four are generally what we want. My opponent's team is already quite slow and bulky, so Whimsicott doesn't really offer us much, and Charizard, it's not doing great. Between both of us having Kyogre, it's unlikely to ever get Sun without me bringing Whimsicott. So yeah, these are the four no matter what, but I do decide to switch up the order this time to account for a potential adaptation by my opponent. But sadly for me, my opponent does not attempt to adapt at all, and they actually just stick to their lead, so I would have been way better off sticking to my own from game one. I'm stuck in this position, though, so I need to play it out. I decide that what I have to do here is get their Grimmsnarl off the field. T-Wave is a nuisance. Screens are really bad. If I can force them to only have one screen, that would be ideal. So I just go for the Behemoth Blade. I'm pretty sure I'm faster than their Zacian again because I am Jolly. And then I go ahead and protect Thundurus because the B-Blade into that slot is just fairly obvious. So that's what a lot of people go for. Zacian at +1 with its B-Blade affecting Dynamax double will do like 75%-ish to Thundurus. Unfortunately, they go for what's generally called the Devil's Bargain. You go for a Thunder Wave onto the Zacian as it takes you out, and you might be able to avoid being taken out by the full para. We luckily break through, and we did call the Protect correctly, so that's nice as well. And here the B-Blade goes into Grimmsnarl, so the bargain goes as normal, right? They paralyze our fast Zacian, but we get rid of their Grimmsnarl before it gets to get any screens up or para anything else. So it's hard to say who's honestly in the lead here. It's generally considered an even trade, which is crazy since we're just a mon up to start with. And they bring out that Amoonguss, which puts me in a rough position. So what's kind of lucky here, though, is that my Zacian is now immune to sleep because of its paralysis, but Thundy is not, and Electric Terrain won't help me because it's flying type. So what I decide to do here, I attack with Zacian, and then I swap Thundy into Amoonguss to eat a potential Spore. That seems like the obvious play here, so I go for it. It's a really solid, safe play, but what I should have done is targeted Amoonguss, because ultimately I'm going to want to take it off the field with one decisive play later to avoid any Spores, and instead I target into Zacian. Obviously you want damage on Zacian, but Kyogre can do that, so this was a bit of a misplay here, even though the swap into Amoonguss was good. They do a ton of damage into my Zacian. We can tell that it's almost certainly an Adamant variant based on how much damage it's doing, and then we B-Blade into them, and it's apparent that we are not as strong because we're Jelly. But we do call the Spore correctly, so that's at least nice. So from here, I strongly consider a Rage Powder plus Protect, but I figure that they'd probably go for the same thing, and I instead settle for Protect plus Spore, I believe, to catch them on that. This also covers for a potential foul play from Amoonguss, which at this range will definitely kill Zacian. Amoonguss generally can't do much damage to Zacian, but foul play, even though it's not very effective, just the monstrous attack stat that Zacian has means that it can do something significant. And again, nerves getting to me. It's taking almost all of my time. So unfortunately, my opponent does go for the same play as I do. They protect with their Zacian. They do reveal that foul play though, so that was good intuition there. But this turn is effectively a wash, right? We don't do anything to them either. A B-Blade into the Amoonguss would have been a nice trade. So anyway, we go for the original play, B-Blade plus Rage Powder. Again, I really should have been trying to get Chip on that Amoonguss as opposed to just taking out the Zacian. We have a potential Airstream. We have a Dynamax in reserve to take it out. But yeah, we go for that. We go for the Rage Powder. They get their Behemoth Blade off into Amoonguss, and that Calc from game one comes in clutch once again. We survive on AHP, but we get the full para, which not great. I mean, it is the third turn we've been on the field since the para, though, so yeah, I mean, statistically, it was likely to happen. I don't love that RNG, but I can't be too mad about it. Had we gotten the full para last turn, we would have just died to a foul play instead of protecting. So anyway, yeah, you remember how I said I should have targeted the Amoonguss? This is exactly why. If I'd done so, I could have gone Protect plus Airstream and run away with the game using Lightning plus Spout later. Now we have no way to stop this Amoonguss from sporing us, like, at all. Outside of Protect. So this turn is a massive mistake on my part. What I should have done here is Protect Thundy, allow Zacian to go down, and then have a fighting chance because my Thundy would then be positioned next to Kyogre. I could go for like Airstream plus Origin Pulse, for example. But instead, I don't know, I just Tunnel Vision and double attack here. My Zacian is obviously slower than theirs because of the para, so they can take out my Zacian. I'm going to do solid damage into this Amoonguss, but to kill is unlikely. And this is exactly why the two items that are most common on Amoonguss are Koba Berry like this or Focus Sash. We actually do huge damage even considering the Koba Berry, so it must be specially defensive, but, you know, not a kill is not a kill, and it means that they get to Spore us. Had it been Focus Sash, it would have been the same thing. So, yeah, absolute misplay on my part. Should have been Protect and Saxation, but here we are. Now we're in a rough spot. We have taken no guaranteed sleep turns, and Kyogre's coming out here. So at this point, I have no choice but to attempt to play to a one-turn Wake. It is always possible. I think the odds are not all that terrible, so you definitely play to it in this scenario. I protect Kyogre, and then I click anything with Thundy. I haven't taken the turn yet. So the real thing here is that I'm attempting to preserve Kyogre for a potential one-turn Wake on Thundy so that I can get that Airstream off and be faster than Zacian in future turns, even if I miss an Origin Pulse, for example. Because play rough from the Zacian is pretty safe from them. We go for the Protect, Thundy takes the sleep turn, and then they go for the play rough, predictably, into Kyogre. So, I mean, this was the right play. They go for Spore also into that slot, which is bizarre, but I guess they know that Kyogre can live it, so it makes some amount of sense. So yeah, now we absolutely go for it. Origin Pulse and Airstream, we really just have to cross our fingers for that one-turn Wake. And they protect Amoonguss, which is probably a pretty good play, honestly, or they would die to the Origin Pulse if they didn't. But unfortunately, we do not get that one-turn Wake, and double, unfortunately, play rough connects. Would have really loved a miss there, but, you know, 90%, fair enough. Origin Pulse does connect on their Zacian, though, so we take that out. Now we really did need that one-turn Wake, though. Now we are in a rough spot. We've taken 2 turns of sleep. We could potentially, if we take a third, it's 100% over. And in fact, at this point, it probably is, but we play to our outs. It is possible to win at this point, but you're looking at like a 10% chance. Specifically because of freeze is what we're going to play into at this point. What I do is I Ice Beam the Amoonguss, and then I go for Fly. The correct play from them is always to attempt to take out Thundy. Life Orb Ogre generally carries Thunder, so they can easily deal with my Kyogre. In fact, they don't even need Thunder since I'm so low on health. And they do predictably Dynamax here. Because if I wake up and a Wild Charge happens, that would be really bad for them. But actually, in retrospect, I do think that Rage Powder Spout was the play for them here. Not that it really matters a whole ton. Because this Rage Powder is so obvious, I couldn't just go for Wild Charge and hope for the Wake. That's why I'm going for Fly here. So we do get the Wake, which is nice, but honestly, it's a turn too late. Ice Beam goes into Amoonguss. That's good. We get that off the field. We're in the 2v1 situation now, but Dynamax on Kyogre and the very, very low amount of HP we have on my Kyogre means this is rough. We do call it correctly, though, with Fly, so that's nice. But what it's really going to come down to here is a freeze from a Kyogre Ice Beam. Fly is not going to do much damage, and you know, the same speed that allowed me to avoid last turn is the speed that's going to mean that I get hit this turn. So we hit with Fly. Life Orb Stab is nice, and that crit is also nice, but I really, that's not where I needed the RNG. We go for the Ice Beam here, and sadly, no 10% chance on the freeze. That's fine. You know, it is what it is. And my opponent is actually very intelligent here and goes for this Hailstorm. You know, they could kill Thunders with whatever they wanted. Geyser feels like the default, right? But what this does here is it basically makes it so that because my Kyogre is so low on health, they guarantee win the game now. Even I'm faster, so I could go for another potential Ice Beam freeze next turn. It's another 10% chance, but the Hail's going to kill me next turn anyway. So the game's over, and I'm already thinking about game 3 here. Yeah, so I stall out the timer a bit while I think about it. Ultimately, though, like what my opponent's shown is that they really like the Zacian Grimmsnarl lead into my team. And that's fair enough. I myself have specific matchups that I have a lead for, and even if I lose a game with my game plan, I'll still stick to it because you can all switch things up and do something different in the next game, right? I definitely respect playing the same lead but different moves. So ultimately, I've pretty much already decided in my head at this point that I'm going back with the same 4 from game 1. That lineup, that order. Specifically because it just did so well in Zacian Grimmsnarl, and at this point I have to imagine they're going to just stick to their guns with that since it worked out for them this time. So we go for the same old Kyogre Amoonguss lead, Zacian Thundy in the back. It worked out great in game 1, and we can hope to not make the same mistakes we did there. Lock it in, and I'm going to go ahead and just skip directly to the game because my opponent did take a minute. I also love the Jean Cena tag they have here. It's absolutely fantastic, and they do go for that lead, so we called it right. Yeah, and once again, we're just gonna click the safe buttons here. Could go for something crazy game 3. Like I have done that kind of thing in the past, and I think it is good, but like to really throw your opponent for a loop when it counts. But I was nervous. This was World Cup. I wanted my team to advance, so I go for the Rage Powder Water Spout here. It's the safe buttons. They probably will just play Clyde Screen, but it guarantees that something crazy doesn't happen, right? And they do just play Clyde Screen. And Behemoth Blade comes out again. It's going to go into Amoonguss, and you know, we just cross our fingers that they weren't just low rolling this whole time. But for the 3rd time this set, Amoonguss hangs on with barely any HP, so we can assume that calc is holding true, and Water Spout again does amazing damage. This time I am not taking any chances with the T-Wave though, and we're just going for Spout Rage Powder again. And it looks like my opponent it looks like they're going with exactly the same game plan as game 1 here. Protect on Zacian, and yeah, T-Wave plus Grim from Grimmsnarl. I specifically remember this. Yeah, so yeah, I mean exactly the same buttons from game 1. So if I had predicted that, like if I really wanted to make a play, what I could have done is protected Kyogre and gone for Spore on Grimmsnarl, and then gotten the double KO the following turn. Would have been very nice, but I don't know. I mean, the thing about that is that if they just go for the kind of obvious play and attack with Zacian, then we're in a really rough spot, right? Then they just kill him just for free, and I don't get anything. I don't get the Grimmsnarl kill. So we are in a bit of an awkward position now with their Kyogre on the field. This is why I swapped in with Thundy in game 1, right? As I wanted to have that position ready. If I go for a Rage Powder play, then they can just kill Amoonguss with Zacian and then Lightning into Ogre, which would also prevent any spores. Wouldn't really matter since Amoonguss is dead, I suppose. But this still feels like a good trade though, because what it means is that I would get their Zacian off the field, and then I'll have Thundy Zacian on my side of the field to have a field day with Kyogre and whatever non-restricted they have in the back, which might be Thundurus, might be Amoonguss. Either way, not a bad spot. But it looks like my opponent had the same realization about that potential to get Zacian off the field, and they swap their Zacian for Amoonguss while not maxing. And this is really smart because both of their mons will take my Spout really well, and they can do a Spout of their own in return, which will kill my Amoonguss at this range, obviously. And yeah, you can see that Life Orb on their Ogre is really doing work here, because even with the chip that I did to them first, they still do more damage to me. So yeah, 30% is a big deal. And yeah, so that's what my opponent did. Not great for me. It actually was a really great play on Jean-Marc's part. Zacian and Thundy will both get nuked by a Max Geyser, regardless of whether I Dynamax. and Rage Powder means they won't even need to take damage on their Kyogre. So what I decided I'd like to do is stall out their max while preserving my own. Obviously that there are risks involved in that, especially because they have Thunder on their Kyogre, right, which means they threaten either of my slots. But Zacian is far better bait for this, for stalling on a max than Thundy is, because it has much better bulk and we can protect. We don't have to commit to a max guard. Hailstorm or Geyser would do massive damage to Thundy even if I protect, just because of how strong Dynamax Life Orb Kyogre is. So yeah, we bring out the Zacian here is the thing. If it wasn't Amoonguss, if it was anything else, then Lightning from this range would probably kill the Kyogre, and that would be amazing. But yeah, unfortunately the redirection is scary here. So if we're going for the stall, we definitely have to protect Zacian, right? But I have to decide whether to play it safe with Kyogre and also protect there, or if I should attack. There's really an argument for either, but I believe that I do go for the attack. I'm a bit behind at this point, right? And I do have speed control. My Kyogre is faster than theirs, I know that. So what I do is I go for a Spout, because Ice Beam, it probably won't kill their Amoonguss from this range. We don't have any boosts to non-water moves on this Kyogre, and based on the damage it took from my Airstream last game, I'm pretty sure that it's specially defensive. So at this range, when it's only taken a not very effective Spout, I don't think that Ice Beam is going to pick up the KO, so I might as well Water Spout and get chip on both. And actually, this play, this was something I thought about at the time, which I was really happy this panned out, is that this called a potential Amoonguss Protect, right? Because the Ice Beam into Amoonguss does feel kind of obvious. And this Protect calls that, so that the following turn we can take out the Amoonguss. And they do go for the Geyser into my Zacian, so the Protect there was fantastic. I mean, ultimately this turn is a bit of a wash, but we use up their Dynamax turn and call their Amoonguss Protect while doing a bit of chip, so it's definitely a win. And at this point, like, I think they just have to take the attack with Amoonguss, right? Like, if they swap into Zacian, that's really not good for them, because I think their Zacian already took a Spout, so they would just be sacking a restricted. Yeah, would absolutely not be good for them there. So at this point, we just attack. We can go for the Water Spout and the Beyblade into the Amoonguss slot. And we are sacking Zacian here, and that's perfectly fine. And they just go for Rage Powder. They wanted that too. I guess if I Beybladed the Kyogre, that would be rough for them. It's like, even though it's resisted, they don't have a screen up, so that would have been bad for them. Maybe I even should have targeted the Kyogre, but we go for the safe play, and we are in the lead after that good read last turn. So just take out the Amoonguss, and we're gonna get a single target Water Spout off too, which, you know, obviously they're gonna take it well, but single target Water Spout is still good. Considering we are still at full health after all of this. Not quite full health. But Zacian does go down. That was the sack. So now we can bring up Thundy, and at this point we're going to attempt to close out the game. So we bring out a Thundurus, they bring out their very wounded Zacian. So this does look really good for me, right? I have the type advantage. I have the type advantage with Thundurus. Both of their mons are very injured, and I have 2 more Dynamax turns than them, but it's still actually a massive mind game at this point. I know that their Kyogre is Life Orb, so Max Guard is a very real threat. And if I Lightning that and Zacian attacks, I lose due to not having speed control with Thundy over their Zacian. But if they're really brave and they protect Zacian and attack with Kyogre, and I attack the wrong target, then I'm still in a rough spot because Zacian is wounded, but not wounded enough to die through Protect. So basically, I have to make a read. And I decide that going for the bold play and Max Lightning into Zacian is actually my best option, because the rain ended last turn, so my Thundy actually should be able to take up a Geyser from Life Orb Kyogre, even if I get the call wrong, and that's a better position than the alternative, which is that we would die to 2 Vehicle Blades in a row. And we also attack with Kyogre because that covers a potential double up into Thunder as well. So of course I had to sit through that whole Dynamax animation to see if I got the call right, but we did, and they Max Guard Kyogre. which is fantastic. They go for the player up into my Kyogre. That is perfectly okay. I am just fine with that because we are going to kill their Zacian with this Lightning now. We have Life Orb. They're at less than half health. There's no chance they live it. And now their Dynamax is over. We have speed control. They have very little health. Lightning will 100% take out Kyogre from this range too. So at this point, it's just going to be a matter of clicking the buttons. And that's amazing. We took round of 8 against an amazing opponent. Jean-Marc is super strong. Again, top 4 in at the Vancouver Regional this very year, so it's not like old results either. Super proud of this one. I made a few errors this set for sure, but the reads were good too, and I'm really happy with it. So unfortunately, Team India did not manage to win this round because Canada is just an incredibly strong opponent. But so we ended our run in top 8, and my season finished with 6-1. So I'll definitely take that. That is the end of Series 12 for me, though. But we still got the fan-made Spike Myth format to play with, which is, if you haven't heard, it's Series 9 with no Dynamax. I'm going to do my best to get some of that content up before Scarlet and Violet come out, which is when the real fun starts. But yeah, until next time.